Welcome to the Screw the System channel. I'm Joe Barnes and today's video is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to break down and rate Michael Jackson's top 5 albums. So you may be thinking, hold on a second Joe, I thought this was supposed to be a personal development channel. Why are you now delving into the world of music? Well, it's come to my attention that over the past 18 months, the most popular videos on this channel have been the ones related to Michael Jackson and the sexual abuse allegations. I did 2 reaction videos to Leaving Neverland and I did 1 reaction video to Square One. So as a result of that, I got some extra subscribers and I was thinking it might be nice for you guys who subscribe to the channel there if I made another Michael Jackson video. It's also a lot of fun for me. I'm a big fan and I'm enjoying looking forward to rating his albums and coming up from a 5 down to 1. Now don't fear for those of you who aren't interested in Michael Jackson at all and watch this channel for personal development. It will remain a personal development channel now and for always. This is just a little bit break, a little departure for me, a little bit of fun. So for those of you that are big fans, let's get into the review straight away. Coming at number 5 for me, and by the way, this is my own personal preferences. This is not anything to do with sales, album sales, or what other people think. This is what I feel is his best work. So coming in at number 5, I would have History. Now for me, it was a real close tie, close toss-up between History and Invincible. And if I had to just pick the positioning based on the new material in History versus Invincible, I probably would have gone for Invincible because I think You Rock My World, Butterflies and Break of Dawn, what I consider the standout tracks on that album, are better than the standout tracks on History, which I consider to be You Are Not Alone, They Don't Care About Us and Stranger in Moscow. However, History also comes with that greatest hit CD, so that combined with the new material secures the number 5 spot for me. History and Invincible for me were a slight drop off Michael Jackson's usual outstanding level. Pretty much for me, all of his albums are 5 out of 5, but History and Invincible, I would give them 4 out of 5s because I don't feel they quite had the consistency with the tracks. Usually Michael Jackson's songs stay at this incredible level, but for me, these ones had a little bit of a drop off, especially History. I don't think History really touched the highs with the new material. As good as Stranger in Moscow is, as good as You Are Not Alone is, I don't think it was really the pinnacle of his work. And definitely on that album, there were some weaker tracks as well. Songs like Little Susie or Tabloid Junkie. And I just felt he was still doing a bit of a sort of New Jack sound on some of these songs. And by 1995, it was a bit outdated and it sounded old when it was released then. So for me, History was a little bit of a drop in his level, but it still secures the number 5 spot. Moving on to number 4, and now number 4 and 3 were neck and neck. I could barely decide between them, and if you wanted to alternate the positions, I wouldn't argue with you at all. But for me, number 4 was Dangerous. Now this is not to say Dangerous was a subpar album in any stretch of the imagination. It was excellent and a big level up for me from History. Outstanding tracks on Dangerous for me were Remember the Time and Who Is It? But although these tracks were outstanding, I felt that a load of the other songs as well were really, really good. You had Dangerous as well, you had In the Closet, you had Jam, you had Will You Be There, you had Keep the Faith. For me, all of these songs were excellent. They weren't quite as high as some of Michael Jackson's other work, but it was definitely a really exciting and fun album to listen to. Somewhat long, and maybe a couple of the tracks could have been cut out for my preference. Why You Wanna Trip on Me, even at Black or White, I wasn't a huge fan of that song, even though it's sort of an anthem for the album. So there were a couple of tracks which for me I could have left out. I would have left off the album, but still overall it's an excellent album, and that's why it secured the number 4 spot. Just ahead of it, and I mean only just ahead of it by a fraction, is Off the Wall. Now I know many MJ fans have Off the Wall as their number 1 album, and many artists will also say, oh, Off the Wall is Michael Jackson's best work. I'm going to explain at the end why people tend to do that and why it's not. But for now, I'll just review the album. Again, another outstanding album, a 5 out of 5 album. And for me, has two of Michael Jackson's greatest songs ever. If I ever create a list of 5 of Michael Jackson's top best individual songs, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough and Rock With You would be on that. I think they are the absolute pinnacle of his work. Other good songs in the album were She's Out of My Life and also Off the Wall. Now, the title track of the album. Apart from those 4 though, I really feel the album kind of dropped, and this is where I really disagree with people that say that Off the Wall is Michael Jackson's best album, because although you probably can listen to it all the way through, there's a real drop off. You've got Off the Wall and Rock With You right up here. You've got the other, not Off the Wall, you've got Don't Stop Till You Get Enough and Rock With You right up here. Then you've got Off the Wall and She's Out of My Life, still really high, but then the other songs, they come down a bit. I mean, Girlfriend, it's the Falling in Love. These are not, these are good songs, don't get me wrong, but they're not outstanding. Burn This Disco Out, the last track on the album, they're good and you can listen to them, but I don't feel it quite has that, it doesn't quite have the ability to listen from start to finish and just be gripped the entire way through. Your mind will start to wander a bit on some of those tracks. So Off the Wall gets the 3rd spot though. It goes above Dangerous purely on the strength of Don't Stop Till You Get Enough and Rock With You. That, for me, that was better than anything on Dangerous, and it has secured it that position. So coming in at number 2, this probably won't be a surprise as there's only 2 real contenders left, was Bad. Now, I know, again, Bad gets quite a bit of criticism. I look at MJ fans and forums and I look at the critical response to Bad, and quite a few people say it's one of his weaker albums, but I really disagree. Bad for me is an album you can listen to from start to finish and be really entertained the whole way through. There's not a bad song on the album. Okay, some people criticize the duet he did with Stevie Wonder, Just Good Friends, but Michael Jackson and Stevie Wonder on the same song. I mean, come on, what more could you ask for? Okay, maybe a slightly better song, but it was still listenable. I don't think that the drop to that song was that great, and that's only 1 track on the album. Outstanding songs from this album for me was The Way You Make Me Feel and Man in the Mirror. Again, probably if I had to pick a top 5 of MJ songs, those 2 would be there, or definitely Man in the Mirror would be there. But it wasn't just those 2 outstanding songs, it was about 5 or 6 excellent songs that were also on the album. You had Bad, you had I Just Can't Stop Loving You, Liberian Girl, Speed Demon, Dirty Diana, Smooth Criminal. These were just really, really cool songs, and Michael, probably possibly his most creative. I mean, where did he come up with the ideas for Smooth Criminal or Dirty Diana or Speed Demon? It was just his creativity had just gone to a whole new level and brought us some really fun, exciting songs to listen to. So Bad gets that number 2 spot on the strength of the fact you can listen it to the whole way through, and there's no kind of drop off in the level. You got the exceptional highs of Man in the Mirror and The Way You Make Me Feel, but the drop to the other tracks is not that much. So obviously, number 1, Michael Jackson's greatest album, and to my mind, the greatest album, the greatest piece of music ever made, is Thriller. And this is a vinyl. I actually picked this up in Bournemouth, in Brighton, in a music store in Brighton. And I never actually listened to it because I don't have a vinyl player. It's more just a collector's item, I guess. I used to have CDs for all the other Michael Jackson albums, but as everything's moved on to iPhone, I've got rid of those. So that's the only physical remaining piece of Michael Jackson's work I have. So Thriller for me was just Michael Jackson on a whole nother level. It was by far his best album. I think a point I haven't made before is that vocally I think Michael Jackson was at his best on both Thriller and Off the Wall. He was still exceptional on Bad, but after that I think his voice became slightly effective for Dangerous and thereafter. And obviously, why would it not? The man had been singing since 5 years old, probably every single day. I just felt his voice, the flexibility in it, the lightness, the fluidity was just exceptional for Thriller and Off the Wall. So that's one factor. Another factor is Rod Temperton's songwriting. Michael Jackson is a hugely underrated songwriter himself and comes up with some brilliant songs, and I think people don't pay enough attention to that fact that he has written some of these excellent songs. But to have a few other songwriters in the mix, it doesn't hurt, and Rod Temperton was outstanding. He wrote Thriller, Baby Be Mine, a few other tracks on that album, also wrote Rock With You on Off the Wall. So the standout tracks on Thriller for me, I mean the whole album is pretty much standout, but it's probably Billie Jean and even Human Nature. I think probably those two songs were just incredible. But again, as with Michael Jackson, as with most of his other albums, it's the depth of quality of songs. You can absolutely listen to Thriller the whole way through and not for even 1 second lose any kind of interest. You've even got tracks which I guess you might call B-side songs, which were just outstanding. The Lady in My Life, Baby Be Mine, PYT, these were really good songs. Then you've got obviously the super popular Thriller and Beat It, and the one right at the start, Want to Be Starting Something. So this was, for me, Michael Jackson at his best. It gets my #1 spot, and I'm going to explain to you why it really is the true best Michael Jackson album, and why a lot of people say Off the Wall is the best, when really they're just saying that because they want to seem cool. They think it's cool to say that Off the Wall is the best album because that was Michael at his most unaffected by fame. It was also Michael at his most quote-unquote blackest, and for some reason it's very sad that in today's society people think that's cool in some way, that because he was black then, or he was black throughout, but because he appeared black then, that was somehow cooler. Now unfortunately Michael Jackson did have a changes in his appearance as he got older, but I think a lot of it, some of it, or a big part of it, was actually out of his hands. The biopsy on his death proved that he did have vitiligo. He wasn't bleaching his skin, he had the patches, and he evened it out by wearing makeup. His hair changed, but part of that I think was again due to his scalp being burnt at a Pepsi commercial, him needing to wear wigs after that. Yes, he did some work on his face. He had the nose surgeries, had a little dent in his chin. But beyond that, I think a lot of the physical change in his appearance was somewhat out of his hands. But unfortunately, as a result of that, there's a tendency to slightly denigrate his later work. Bad onwards, Dangerous, he becomes the so-called wacko jacko, and because he has a slightly, what some people would say, freakish look from then on, it's not as cool to say his later work is as good. We're going to say Off the Wall is, because that was when he was both untouched by fame and, you know, looking how he naturally should. And also these questions over race, which are really unfortunate that we still get so hung up on about, and the idea that he may not have been proud to be black and that he deliberately changed his skin color. It's just safer to say, yeah, Off the Wall is my favorite album because he was at his youngest and most unaffected. Quincy Jones was with him. So, I mean, this is not me denigrating Off the Wall whatsoever. I think it's exceptional. I think it's a 5-star album, but Thriller is better than Off the Wall. There is no denying that. The quality of the tracks throughout the album are better than the quality of tracks on Off the Wall. Anyway, that's the end of my video. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you Michael Jackson fans out there have appreciated it. You obviously may have a different list. By all means, put your list in the comments section below. Also, I just wanted to read you the album sales for the albums, because my ranking is pretty much in line with how many albums, how many copies of each album was sold. In 5th place we had History, and in 5th place is History on the album sales with 19 million sold. The only difference was my 3rd and 4th. Off the Wall sold 21 million copies in 4th place. Dangerous sold 30 million in 3rd place, Bad 33 million, and Thriller 66 million. I know this 100 million figure is sometimes thrown around about Thriller, saying 100 million copies have been sold, but My statistics were based on a video from the channel called The Detail. I'll leave a link below so you can check that out and have a look. It seemed pretty reliable where they sourced their statistics. I mean, nobody knows probably for sure. We know he sold a ton of records. We know Thriller is the greatest selling album of all time, but I just wanted to give you guys those figures because it's interesting that they pretty much correlated to my choices. So this is the end of the video. Do comment below, and don't worry if you don't like Michael Jackson and you're thinking what the hell is Joe doing. Don't worry, more personal development stuff is coming out, and in fact you really should check out my last video, the 10 questions every entrepreneur and dreamer needs answered. I spent a lot of time making this video, 10 to 20 hours, rehearsed it, we've got different scenes, I've tried to make it as engaging and as enjoyable as possible. So do take a look at that. Do stay tuned for the next video, subscribe, like this, and I will see you again soon.